The terrorist attacks of September 11th and the events that have followed will have a prominent place in American history. Right now, these are current and dynamic events. And it is important that educators and parents take the time to talk with the students in their lives about what's taking place in our world. Materials like the video that you're going to review offers educators, parents, and students a resource for learning and an important opportunity to talk about current events and to express questions, ideas, and concerns. I hope that you'll use these and other materials as the basis for classroom discussions about how President Bush and the leadership of this country have reacted to terrorist attacks, about the Islamic religion, and about the economic impact of the attacks, about the war on terrorism, and about the principles of democracy and freedom that make the United States of America a great nation.
We have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
Everybody feels the same way. Everybody has anger, but everybody has compassion.
I'm looking for my son, Sept. The last time I spoke to her was at 20 to 8 before the blast.
This is a terrible moment. But this country will not relent until we have saved ourselves and others from the terrible tragedy that came upon America. Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shattered steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. America was targeted for attack because we're the brightest beacon for freedom and opportunity in the world, and no one will keep that light from shining. The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them. None of us will ever forget this day. Yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you. Good night, and God bless America.
Once, you had to crane your neck to look at the World Trade Center. Now rescuers bow their heads to peer inside. Hope has been driven underground, expressed by such words as voids, holes, pockets, and sublevels. 1 week after the towers fell and the list of missing soared, cameras from all sources and angles struggled to show what words had failed to tell. Perhaps it's not the big picture that says the most, but a collection of small ones. This was the view from a camera carried by a firefighter. You are part of a human chain, passing pieces of 2 110-story buildings, and those who were in them, bucket by bucket, hand to hand. 100 feet. Not far away, the same camera captures this image from another robotic camera as it crawls into an opening looking for life where eyes cannot see. A government video photographer had the advantage of access, capturing the haunting images of nearby store interiors. Covered in so much dust, they looked like some ancient crypt, dormant 1,000 years, not just 7 days. The Federal Emergency Management Agency camera stares into the blackness beneath the Trade Center complex as a radio crackles with a question we all are asking.
Is anybody out there?
I walked the site with another camera crew and struggled with my mental thesaurus, scribbling words like obscene, grotesque, otherworldly. In the end, I gave up. I wasn't prepared, and I wasn't alone.
Nothing can compare what we saw today with what we thought it was. It's just so dramatic, the size of it, the whole, everything.
We watched the towers hit. We watched as they tumbled. We still watch as they dig through what remains. Until now, Americans couldn't get enough of reality TV. That was before last week. Martin Savage, CNN, New York.
It's part shopping mall, part street fair, from back massages to finger-licking smoky ribs to all sorts of personal gear. In a parking lot a quarter-mile from where the hijacked jet slammed into the Pentagon, hundreds of volunteers give any support they can to the recovery workers.
This is an area where any needs they're going to have while they're out here is going to be serviced here. If it's anything from needing new cases for their contacts to new boots for them or toiletry items.
David Doss, a federal contractor, has worn out his boots working in the rubble this past week. Finding out he could get a replacement pair in this impromptu warehouse was welcome news.
That'd be good. Thank you.
They call this place Camp Unity because so many volunteer groups are working together.
About 5,000 meals 4 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and midnight. If recovery workers can't make it to Camp Unity, meals are packed up and sent to them. Many of these volunteers have worked at other disasters. This time, they say, there's more security and a different mood.
Just the overwhelming sense that we are at war and we don't see the enemy.
On tents and walls flutter dozens of drawings from children, expressing support and hope. They usually arrive in donations of food or clothing, like the one from 10-year-old Kayla Madron of Elon College, North Carolina. "Dear heroes," she wrote, "thank you for being our heroes. I hope you find lots of people. Be careful, Kayla." An Army Medical Corps officer who worked in Camp Unity wrote Kayla an answer.
The mood here is sad, but the spirit of people is high because of the many letters received by students like you. Please accept a Pentagon shoulder patch and my Army rank insignia of Colonel. God bless you, your family, your school, and America.
Sheila Cast for CNN, Washington.
Start by thinking of Al-Qaeda as a corporation, with Osama bin Laden as chairman of the board, says terrorism expert Magnus Ransford.
Bin Laden is a truly multinational enterprise. He has tentacles and followers all around the world.
Like many global companies, Al-Qaeda is a combination of partnerships, strategic alliances, and some wholly owned subsidiaries, in this case with the who's who of terrorist groups.
The groups associated with Al-Qaeda to various degrees are Egyptian, Pakistani, Bangladesh, Uzbeki, Tajik, you name it. Pretty much any group that's in the Central Asia or the Middle East that is a sort of militant organization has links of some kind or another with Al-Qaeda. Some of the groups that work with Al-Qaeda are basically effectively part of the organization.
In keeping with the merger mania of the 90s, bin Laden even combined his Al-Qaeda with Egypt's Al-Jihad, leaving its leader, Ayman al-Zawahiri, as bin Laden's number 2. Both groups are accused of being behind the 1998 attack on 2 U.S. embassies in Africa. Al-Qaeda's relationship with the Lebanese group Hezbollah is more of a working alliance. It dates from the early 90s when bin Laden met with a senior member of that group, and Hezbollah provided Al-Qaeda with explosives and training.
What we know about the links between bin Laden and Hezbollah is that there were certainly pretty strong links in the early 90s. What those links are today, I don't know.
If cooperation with Hezbollah may have gone out of fashion, a new business partner seems to be the GIA, Algeria's armed Islamic group. Al-Qaeda is accused of hooking up with the GIA to bring off a part of the so-called Millennium Plot, a series of terrorist incidents that were supposed to have happened at the beginning of the year 2000.
A member of that group tried to bomb Los Angeles airport at the time of the new millennium, but he was arrested at Seattle before he could do it.
But even if that plot failed, Al-Qaeda may have gotten something equally as valuable from the GIA, an idea.
The idea of a suicide attack against a metropolitan area using an aircraft was first coined in 1994 when Algerian GIA allegedly during the hijack tried to command the airline to fly over metropolitan Paris and then crash it on the city itself.
Harakat al-Mujahideen, a Pakistani group, shares training camps with Al-Qaeda and had several of its fighters killed when the U.S. sent cruise missiles into Afghanistan in 1998 in its attempt to get bin Laden. Harakat is also held to be responsible for the hijacking of an Air India plane that was brought to Afghanistan at the end of 1999. And in the Philippines, the Abu Sayyaf group, which has kidnapped and killed Americans, got its start with funding from Osama bin Laden.
The problem of countering bin Laden's organization is that it mutates continuously. It's not only a multinational enterprise with followers, with financial infrastructure across the globe, but it mutates, continuously shifting in order to insulate the organization from any attempts at removing the top leadership.
These partnerships and alliances give Al-Qaeda 2 other advantages: a global reach and a continuous flow of fresh recruits to supply the core business, acts of terror around the world. Mike Betcher, CNN, Atlanta.
There's an air of a medieval way of thinking to say that now, again, the Christian West and the Islamic East confront each other. We should be many centuries beyond that, we think, and anyway, the West is not all Christian, nor the East monolithically Islam. And yet, in age-old misunderstanding, roots of violence flourish. To not know how close Christians and Muslims are, to allow alleged distance further drive us apart.
Jesus is spoken of in the Quran. Mary responds to the angel saying, "Be it done to me according to your will." That is very Islamic, the acceptant submission to the will of God. That's what it's about.
What it's about, how few non-Muslims know how honored Jesus is in Islam, and how Jews, too, are called people of the book. Muhammad, the prophet, born in 570 in what's now Saudi Arabia, was a businessman to the age of 40. Then, devout but illiterate, he had a revelation and mysteriously began to pour forth the profound poetry of the Quran.
First he panicked, but all he could see was the angel Gabriel telling him to recite the name of God. Many people thought he was a magician of some sort, some sage. false sage. And so he was persecuted. And the people who started to believe in him and follow his message, and let's remember it's the message, not following him, they were submitters to this message, and they are called Muslims. What he was saying at the very beginning of his prophecy and towards the very end is a very basic reiteration of the message that there is only one God. Remember that this one God is the source of everything.
Most Muslims know what most Christians do not. That early in Muhammad's ministry, a Christian king and his followers, by sheltering the then persecuted prophet, saved his life.
The mystical part of this is always interesting. When you find among the various religions people who have come along to mystical experience, that's very direct experience of God acting in their souls. And the differences tend to become very unimportant at that point.
And yet, among Christians, Muslims, Jews, differences, and anger so horrific, calls for jihad, holy war. Though here too, say Islamic scholars, driving apart, perverting what real jihad is.
The book contains over 6,000 verses. There are 114 chapters. I don't know how many references there are to the actual word to jihad, maybe less than 5 or 6. It's referring to groups of people to work on their spiritual enlightenment, the inner connection to God's self-disclosure. And then there's a specific verse that says, do not turn your backs on the cause of God.
That through history, one side or another didn't try to understand the other, declared the cause of God theirs alone. Why so many wars were born and may yet be born.
In any of our faiths, we're inclined to think, we got the whole thing, nobody else has it. And a rival claim is treated as something hostile.
It's dangerous when one thinks that mine is better than yours. But I don't think it's dangerous to believe in something and be committed to it.
The razor's edge, west and east, now walk again. Though the map for this difficult passage can perhaps be already read in the compassion that unites, not divides, great faiths, sprung from the same desert, watered by the same God. Bill Delaney, CNN, Boston.
Even before the attacks that terrorized Wall Street, consumer confidence was under siege. Confidence suffered its biggest one-month drop since the Gulf War, according to the latest survey of 5,000 households by New York's Conference Board, conducted right before the attacks took place. A special follow-up survey showed that confidence continued to decline in the days following the tragedy. The big question now, how long will it take to rebuild the consumer's post-attack psyche?
When you're in trauma, I mean, all the old formulas just don't work. You have a healing process. This is psychological. It really does not have to do with recessions or economics because you have stopped a whole society.
A deteriorating job market is the #1 factor eroding confidence, economists say, along with a steady drop in the stock market that has erased trillions of dollars of wealth. A seemingly unquenchable U.S. consumer was until recently the economy's #1 defense against recession. If shoppers lose their appetite, experts fear the economy will lose its footing.
Certainly, we've seen the big hit now on the willingness to spend side, and it will remain to be seen how it plays out on the ability to spend.
Policymakers are hoping tax cuts, government relief dollars, and aggressive Fed rate cuts will reassure the consumer and revive the ailing economy.
I think the people would worry if the Fed were asleep or the Fed non-responsive. So I think it's a very encouraging thing to see the Federal Reserve continue to back on that course of the most rapid decline in interest rates that we've seen.
With sales at department stores sagging across the nation and many auto dealerships all but empty, economists say the Federal Reserve is sure to cut its key short-term interest rate when it meets again on October 2nd. Kathleen Hayes, CNN Financial News, New York.
Citizens of the United States have seldom been shy about exercising and protecting their basic and guaranteed civil liberties. But ask Americans on the street these days if they would object to the curtailment of these rights, and you'll get answers that match the national mood.
I'm all for taking all kinds of steps so that terrorism is prevented, even if it means infringing a bit on people's liberties.
And if it's actually going to save more lives and better the country, yes, I'll be willing to do that.
I don't want to become part of the paranoia. I want us to think very carefully about how we proceed from here.
The Bush administration wants Congress to broaden the power of federal agents to conduct surveillance on individuals in the United States.
We need every tool available to us to curtail the potential of additional terrorist acts that would threaten the safety and security of the American people.
Specifically, Ashcroft wants wiretap laws expanded to monitor all the communications of an individual, no matter what telephone or computer they may use. The administration also wants to give federal agents the right to take DNA samples from suspects and allow federal agencies to use information from other countries that may have been obtained in ways that would be illegal in the United States. Critics say the White House is overreacting.
History has shown us that in past times of national calamity, civil rights and civil liberties are among the first to fall victim to the crisis.
It's happened before in the United States.
I'm old enough to remember Pearl Harbor, and shortly thereafter, the United States interned, locked up 130,000 Japanese. We did it only in the far west, and particularly in California, and it turned out that there was prejudicial sentiments against the Japanese, and that operated to bring about this incarceration.
So far, there's been no effort to greatly expand the role of the INS, the Immigration and Naturalization Service. But the administration has already doubled the amount of time an immigrant can be detained by federal agents without questioning, from 24 to 48 hours. Politically, there is support to give federal agents more latitude in conducting their investigation into the terrorist attacks. But a prominent Democrat offered a word of caution.
If we don't do it within our Constitution and our laws, then in some ways they win.
There's always been a robust debate in the United States on the tension between national security on one hand, individual liberty on the other. It's a debate that began in the earliest days of the Republic, and it continues now in an era of high-tech surveillance, personal privacy issues, and these days, a backdrop of concern. Jonathan Aiken for CNN, Washington.
A high school football team in Wisconsin. Blue chip companies in New York. Students in California. What do they all have in common? They've given over 1 million pints of blood, $500 million in cash, and hundreds of thousands of pounds of food and supplies.
Everybody's heart is in the same mode. Everybody's mind is on the same wavelength. They're all thinking we need to help our fellow man, and so they find it very easy to contribute to something like this.
According to Major John Jones of the Salvation Army, in times of crisis, Americans have always opened the wallet, closet, or the pantry.
It's been our experience whenever we express the need, especially in a very emotional disaster like this, that people just respond very freely.
We have a long record of people giving to the American Red Cross. The generosity of the American public is, I think, unmatched.
According to the Red Cross, donations have always skyrocketed after catastrophes. They received $10 million after the Oklahoma City bombing, $104 million after Hurricane Andrew, and so far over $250 million in response to the terrorist attacks of September 11th.
It's just amazing, you know, what we've seen here in the short time since the event.
It's also getting easier.
We still need your help. Please call.
Dozens of television commercials are flooding the airwaves with toll-free numbers. If you're surfing the web, chances are one of the sites you visit will have a link to where you can donate.
And then there's the thousands of merchants across the country. Here at this Atlanta area grocery, you can add a few extra dollars to your food bill at the checkout line. The store takes care of the rest.
This program resulted from a meeting where somebody said it would be nice to be able to just go somewhere and make a contribution and not have to write a check, get a stamp, put it in the mail.
So much money is now flowing to New York and Washington that charities are making it clear unspecified donations may be used elsewhere. The important thing, says one charity spokesperson, the gift you give will always go to someone, somewhere in need.
Lost on September 11th, 2001, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center of New York. Age, 30. Address, 16 acres in southern Manhattan. Two towering landmarks much missed by a city and a nation.
We didn't realize how much we loved these buildings until now that they're gone.
Rutgers University professor Angus Cress Gillespie is the author of Twin Towers, a 1999 biography of the World Trade Center.
The World Trade Center was built like no other skyscraper. It was a remarkable piece of engineering.
The twins were the offspring of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. They were an unprecedented challenge to raise, beginning with excavation in 1966 to set the foundation in bedrock, 70 feet down.
Anytime you dig a hole in lower Manhattan, it's immediately going to fill up with water.
So engineers created the now famous bathtub, a huge concrete-lined hole of unprecedented size.
The entire square footage of the Empire State Building could have been put into the two sub-basements of the World Trade Center.
Construction of the distinctive steel walls began in 1968. What held up the Twin Towers was not the usual network of supporting columns inside the buildings, but the outside walls, 200,000 tons of steel lattice work with only narrow window slots.
It had this very stiff exterior. It's been compared to like a stalk of celery, and this resulted in its unusual appearance.
And its expansive interiors, 10 million square feet of office space, more office space than in the entire city of Miami.
Each floor of the World Trade Center was about an acre in size, very vast and unbroken by columns.
Getting tenants up to those floors was another engineering challenge.
The more stories you have, the more tenants you have, the more elevators you need, and beyond 70 stories, you reached a point of diminishing returns. You had to have so many elevators that the elevators chewed up your rentable space and made the building not economically feasible.
Engineers solved the problem by putting in express elevators to sky lobbies on the 44th and 78th floors, connecting to local elevators going to floors in between. Once built, the new towers still faced problems.
The childhood of the World Trade Center was a very stormy childhood because the kid was not accepted by its neighbors. The architectural critics said that the building was boring and banal, it lacked decorative detail. The environmentalists were particularly upset because there were no light switches. The lights simply burned night and day. The broadcasters were upset. At that time, the signals were being broadcast from the Empire State Building. They were bouncing off the World Trade Center, creating all kinds of double talk, snow, interference. Even the bird lovers were upset because the buildings were built in the flyways, and the birds were flying down from Canada and crashing into the towers.
The Twin Towers were just so big, 110 stories each, more than 1,360 feet high.
The scale, the scope is just beyond imagining.
The World Trade Center had its own railroad station, its own police precinct, its own zip code, 10048.
Truly, it was a city within a city. People from the rest of the country, people from foreign countries visiting New York, if there was one postcard they were going to send back home, it would be of the Twin Towers.
Public pride in the World Trade Center only increased after bombs exploded in the center's parking garage in February of 1993, killing 6 and injuring more than 1,000.
If you were called on to eulogize the Twin Towers, what would you say?
I would say here was a magnificent contribution, building what was then the tallest building in the world, a symbol of American pride, of American finance, of American capitalism, and the lightning rod for our enemies.
Beth Nissen, CNN, New York.
On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes against al-Qaeda terrorist training camps and military installations of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. These carefully targeted actions are designed to disrupt the use of Afghanistan as a terrorist base of operations and to attack the military capability of the Taliban regime. We are joined in this operation by our staunch friend, Great Britain. Other close friends, including Canada, Australia, Germany, and France, have pledged forces as the operation unfolds. More than 40 countries in the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and across Asia have granted air transit or landing rights. Many more have shared intelligence. We are supported by the collective will of the world. More than 2 weeks ago, I gave Taliban leaders a series of clear and specific demands. Close terrorist training camps, hand over leaders of the al-Qaeda network, and return all foreign nationals, including American citizens unjustly detained in your country. None of these demands were met. And now, the Taliban will pay a price. The battle is now joined on many fronts. We will not waver. We will not tire. We will not falter. And we will not fail. Peace and freedom will prevail. Thank you.